I'm Steve Wolf from GOVMINT.com, your best source for coins worldwide. On February 3, 2009, the U.S. Mint Director Edmund Moy used a ribbon-cutting ceremony at the Philadelphia Mint to make a stunning surprise announcement. Midway through the ceremony, Director Moy called John Mercanti to join him at the podium. He then proceeded to make the announcement that he was appointing Mr. Mercanti to the esteemed post of Chief Engraver of the U.S. Mint. Mr. Mercanti is only the 12th person in history to hold this position, following in line with such numismatic legends as Charles Barber, James Longacre, and George T. Morgan. Recently, during a visit at GOVMINT.com, I asked Edmund Moy and John Mercanti to share with us the story behind this truly historic moment.
When I first became director of the Mint, while certainly don't compare myself to Teddy Roosevelt, one of the things that he and I have a similar philosophy about is that coins are an extension of a country's identity. And at the time I became director of the Mint, we had our designs were pretty similar to each other and less poetic and had less to say than some of the great designs that came out in the early part of the 20th century. And so one of my desires was to raise the level of artistic excellence at the Mint. And for a couple of years, I tried. The Mint's artistic process had been broken down. There was no chief engraver, so no one driving that process. It was really designed by committee. And we were doing as best as we could as a committee, but to me it wasn't good enough. And the ultra high relief was my opportunity then to see what that process could look like with someone driving the design process. And I had John do that. So we went all the way through, of the hundreds of different designs that St. Gaudens did for the coin, which one best fit that vision, yet which one could actually be made. And then all these little details, like if the typical $20 planchet was a wide 34 millimeter planchet, and when you did high relief, because it was 1 ounce of coin spread out to a larger diameter, it was a pretty thin coin. So you could only make relief so high before you hurt the structural integrity of the coin, and that's where we came up with the much rarer, take two planchets, the eagle planchets, meld them together, which the Mint experimented with at the time. Well, if you have a double thick planchet, logically you could make a much higher relief. So all those things were driven by by John, which was evidence to me that what the Mint needs to drive artistic excellence to the next level again was to have another chief engraver. And so I revitalized that title, and shortly before the end of my term in office, I felt that it was really important to give John that title. And so I bequeathed it to him. I was one of, John is a man of many words and many passions. That was one of the few times that he didn't have many words.
I didn't know what to say. I really didn't.
Yeah. It's one of the most satisfying things I've done as a director.
I really appreciate it.
So once we got that all cleared up, I thought that the best way to present it to him was after the success of the ultra high relief, we decided to take that exhibit that we used at the ANA to kind of show how it was developed, etc., to permanently place it at the tour route of the Philadelphia Mint, and I was there to inaugurate that tour route. And because John drove that whole process behind the ultra high relief, and it proved why you need someone that is the first among equals to be in charge of the design process. To me, now that we've proved that, nothing could be more satisfying than to bequeath that title to John at the opening of that exhibit. And so I kept it quiet from everybody.
You did.
And I really wanted to make sure John was there. So, and John would have normally been there, but I didn't want to announce it and then have us try to find him somewhere in the building. So he knew something was up because we had probably had some big U.S. Mint police on both sides of you preventing you from moving anywhere.
It's so hard working with artists. There's an ego factor. It's the biggest factor. Trying to get them, you have a vision of something, they give you something that's their vision of what you want, but it's not your vision, and then convincing them to come around to your vision is not easy. And personalities conflict, and it's been that way with the engraving staff for years. I mean, everybody has their own idea of how it should be done, and it does take someone at the top that can control them, really, because it can get out of hand. I mean, you know, I've had some of my engravers, you know, explode and walk out. You know, I let them calm down and come back, and they'll apologize and sit down. We've all done it, you know, but when you expect someone to come in and sit down at a desk or a drawing board or a Wacom tablet and create every day for a year, straight through, sit there and create, you know how hard that is? It's one of the hardest things you can do. And create and make it fresh. So you actually need somebody to motivate, to push, to get that out of them. And you do. You suffer through it. You know, it's just like there are pangs and pains, but you ultimately come out, you know, in the end with what you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in the end, you just realize that as a mint director, I'm the temporary steward of this American institution. I'm going to have 5 years at it, and even the career staff eventually retire. How many mint directors have you survived?
Oh, 5, 6, 7.
5 or 6 or 7, right? So I'm just one of a long line. And what you hope in public service is to leave that institution better than when you found it.
Yeah.
And one way that I could leave it better was to make sure it had a chief engraver.
And it is I got to say, the only director I've ever worked for that really cared about the design and the effect the design would have on the final product and the public. So I could always go to him and say, you know, Mr. Director, I don't agree with this or something. And there were times he'd defer to me, to my opinion. So but he really cared about what the product he put out.
Yeah.
Really did.